Welcome to Keepers of the Library number 12. Totally just looked that up.
I am Michelle Keep.
I'm Joshua Keep.
For those of you not keeping track.
Keeping. Oh, the brilliant puns right off the bat.
Yep, I am on the ball after having abandoned this podcast for the better part of 4 months.
Yeah, we have very good reason though. Including being driven out of our home by a
notorious murderer
and crack dealer who apparently has his own little gang that like creepily circled our block for a long time as we were desperately moving out of the neighborhood from their harassment.
So we moved to Ontario for various reasons, including, just getting away from this snowy rock and being closer to everything and having cheaper travel, except that guy seemed to have been a horrible, horrible person and a slumlord.
Yeah, we got conned out of thousands of dollars in Ontario to follow up the awesome being driven out of our home by a drug dealer.
So then we moved back to Newfoundland.
But only after, kind of weeks of being homeless and drifting around Ontario.
Yep.
In a constant state of stress and anguish.
During a cold snap where it was negative 40 degrees, which is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yet once you reach those hellish temperatures, apparently it all just kind of reaches the same number. And I remember one day checking the weather, Michelle goes, what's the weather like today, Josh? I'm like, I'll just check the weathernetwork.ca. Weathernetwork.ca says, cold warning, people are dying on the streets. Yeah, literally people were, freezing to death.
Yep.
While we were wandering the streets of Toronto.
And the worst part, obviously, the worst part for us was that the wind was actually still like 78 kilometers an hour, which is very high winds.
Same shit we deal with here in Newfoundland.
Yeah, which is what we were trying to get away from. So we finally came home to Newfoundland, another couple weeks of being homeless, and now we finally have a place. We had to buy all new furniture, and we had gotten rid of almost everything we owned.
Yeah, we're just lucky that we have some very good friends, loving family, and the local people are so much nicer here than elsewhere, where... minus the crack-dealing murderer, the occasional crack-dealing murderer here. But yeah, we're back, and, that kind of, the brief personal update kind of leads you into a bit of a writer's topic, because, where have we been all this time? There hasn't been any podcasts. If you were a regular reader, you might have noticed there hasn't been a lot of our fantasy content out lately.
We haven't been doing very much promotion or marketing for our JE&M Keep name. I haven't been following through on a lot of the plans that I had for that pen name and the things that I wanted to do with it. And that is because after essentially having our best month ever in December and then our best month ever again in January, we were unable to write at all for the last half of January. All of February.
Under constant harassment
and almost
drug
all
dealers, murderer. And then being homeless and conned out of thousands of dollars and then having to rebuy all our things when we moved back.
Including like a new couch, which was like $2,000, and new desks and new like bookshelves and new everything. Like everything that you need for your home, we had to buy. Other than a couple of things that our awesome family gave us.
Yeah, because their topic, brings first is that, the realities of being a full-time writer. Turns out when you lose suddenly, countless thousands of dollars, which severely, it turns out, eats into your savings, you have to start being really concerned about writing what actually makes money.
And less about what you like.
Yeah, and tending to your, diehard fans. Unfortunately, all our biggest and best fans that we absolutely love the stuff that sells the least, our fantasy erotica.
And not only that, but the books as well. all of the books that really resonated with people and that we get a lot of fan mail over are all books that don't sell.
Yeah.
The people who do read them love them, but nobody else cares.
Yeah. The stuff that we spend countless hours dedicated to, really like putting stuff out, that gets fans so into it, and we're just sending us emails, like
when's there going to be more? What happened? Like,
asking questions about things, really getting into the characters. Like, oh, is this happening? What do you mean by this? Like, oh, is maybe this going to happen? Or, those that stuff that we just love so much. Like, are always about the novels that just were so financially not worth the time when you're kind of broke ass and you really need to earn some money, unfortunately. So
plus they also take a lot of time.
Yeah, the stuff that sells really well, the contemporary erotica, that stuff usually takes very little comparatively takes very little time compared to those massive fantasy tomes that we write, and so the last few months have been scrambling to piece our lives back together and, earn money.
Yeah. So the reason we're doing this podcast actually is because we were supposed to have a speaking engagement at the Love and Sex Show in St. John's, Newfoundland. We went to talk on Friday and we were supposed to go back on Saturday, except on Friday after I left the show, I was in high heels. It was
very high heels.
Very high heels.
Very sexy.
It was very wet outside, and it was slightly icy, and there was a ramp, and I didn't see it or judge it properly or whatever. So I went down, and I went down really hard on my poor left ankle. I couldn't stand on it yesterday.
Yeah. Very bloody knee.
Very bloody knee. It's terrible and gross, and I won't, disgust you all. But we had, 2 speeches that we were supposed to do yesterday that we never got to do, and that is really unfortunate because we put in a lot of time and energy and effort to get these speeches together, and then nada.
Yeah, so maybe we'll cover some of that stuff, or maybe we'll just kind of bullshit and ramble on like we so often do.
Yeah.
It's really up in the air. What do we do?
It could go either way. We have had a little bit of wine. Our podcast wine date. After having a week of dieting and watching what we eat, we have had a cheat day.
Yeah.
Since it is our anniversary.
And it was Mother's Day, and we took our mother to dinner.
Yes.
At a buffet, which is always a disaster, so.
Yeah, it wasn't very great quality food. There was selection, but, it was all pretty much the same. So.
Typical buffet stuff.
Yeah, so we are here, we are very full, and we are now drinking wine and speaking to you lovely people who I know have missed us because we've fielded quite a few emails in our absence asking us for another podcast. So I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
We had to do full stop everything and just focus on getting some bestsellers out there again. So
we really had to focus on making a living. That shitty thing that, everybody has to contend with now and then. Everybody I've ever known, at least, in a personal way. If you're a rich fuck, you probably don't ever need to worry about it. But we, however, need to worry occasionally about writing stuff that sells rather than writing stuff that kind of is our own artistic vision.
But it's fine because we like that too. We like erotica and we like writing erotica. We just prefer writing the fantasy novels.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like writing the barely legal breeding erotic shorts. I mean, that's cool too. Who doesn't love breeding barely legals?
Don't say it like that. It sounds like you're talking about illegals.
Yeah. Who doesn't love breeding illegal immigrants? It's like Pokemon breeding, but sexier.
Yeah. Josh just told me he had a shiny Ditto. I don't know what he expected to get out of that from me, but my response was not what he anticipated or desired, apparently.
It wasn't.
So, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke at the Sci-Fi convention here, Sci-Fi on the Rock.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. We talked about writing. It was mostly for other authors who are interested in sci-fi, fantasy, romance.
Yeah, we enjoyed, trying to help out other authors. Like, if you've been listening to this podcast, on Darkness, FantasyErotica.com, we have a section dedicated to indie authors, trying to help people there get into it, giving them the tools they need to start. Though that, by saying giving you the tools, this needing to start,
it's more pointing you in the way, and
you need to do a lot of reading and still need to do a lot of work.
Yeah. The thing with
this
writing,
job is still a lot of work.
Yeah, the thing with writing currently is it's better than ever right now for just, Joe Blow off the street to be able to make money off of it. But you have to be really driven. You have to be really into it. You can't kind of half-ass it. There's no way any one person can take your hand and walk you through the entire process. Yeah. There's too many different journeys for one, and not all things are going to work for all people. Like, some people I know make a fortune off of, like, promotion on Pinterest or whatever. They get so many hits to their stories. Other people, I get so much from Tumblr. I get so many sales from Tumblr. But, I mean, those aren't going to work for everybody. And the people who do make money off of that have dedicated their marketing time to those strategies and whatnot. Yeah. There's so many different venues and avenues of doing it that all we could do is try to give you as best tools as possible and let you go.
Yeah, everybody's attempts, to become an author are a little different. Because there's, like I say, hard work plays a role in things. The harder you work at it, the better your chance of success are going to be. The more
you're willing to test as well and see what works and what doesn't.
The more you're willing to roll those dice and try again and again, and try different things. The more chance you're going to have success. But luck in general just plays a big role.
It does, because the thing is we say that you have to be willing to test. But at the same time, it's like, I know plenty of people who, they never hit it until the 6th book in their series, and then it blew up and made so much money and is doing so well. And if they gave up on book 5, well, they would have wasted all that time and energy. But at the same time, like, I know some people who have done 8 books in, one genre or one, series, and it still never has any traction. So it's hard to know when you're banging your head against the wall, and it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, do you say, like, oh, geez, I don't know if I'm going to continue with this story series, like, it's just not selling, but I really believe in it? Do you say, yeah, keep going, go to a dozen stories, just keep going, or do you say, no, move on to something else? And maybe if you keep going, the dozenth story in that series is the one that's suddenly banned. That's where you hit your big success and everybody's reading it. Or maybe it's when you skip ahead, say, fuck that, no, I'm moving on, I'm going to do something else. That's when you get your big success. Who the hell knows? I sure as fuck don't.
No,
because I'm not rich yet. So
it's all trial and error, and it's all going to be so individual that basically any solid advice is going to be worthless, because that's only going to be solid for one person.
Yeah, with marketing, like, we keep saying, when some person figures out some new marketing trick that really works and gets them a lot of success, it's generally only really good for them and maybe the first few other people that figure it out.
Yeah.
Or copy them.
Like, I know
the more people use it, the less effective it gets.
I know some authors were getting really hyped and excited over Facebook ads, but then more and more authors started doing it and increasing the competition, and so the click rate was going up and higher. And it's going to be like that with a lot of things. The more people who know about it, the less effective it is, or the less chance you have at being able to utilize it, which is like what has happened with BookBub and stuff. Is just now they have so many authors wanting their service because their service is so great that now they're choosier, and it might, you'll probably not get chosen. I think they turn down like 60 to 80% of all applications for all the books, and honestly, I think it's way higher than that. So,
I don't think we've ever been accepted, have we?
No, if we did something free,
Yeah.
we probably would, but we haven't really had a series that I've really wanted to push like that yet.
Right.
So, one day.
On the good news front, some great new news came out. I mean, maybe you've been following the publishing biz, or maybe you haven't, but you know, for a long time now, the big publishers, the big five they're called, have been battling with Apple and with Amazon about they want control to price their books at what on Amazon. Amazon's policy was that the price for ebooks, the optimal price for customers, was between $2.99 and $9.99. And that was it. They felt that any more than that was going overboard and it was hurting, you know, writing for everybody, for customers, for the business. And so they tried to restrict the big publishers to keep their books between them. But of course, if you actually buy books from the big publishers, you sure as hell know they don't like publishing their stuff any cheaper than $10. I mean, usually when I go to buy ebooks of like my favorite big authors with the big publishers, you find out that it's actually cheaper to buy the paperbacks or hardcovers than the ebooks.
I was so pissed off one day when I went to try to buy like a traditionally published book and found out that I could buy the hardcover cheaper than the ebook. Yeah. I was so mad.
Same thing with me for like one of the Dune prequels. Really wanted to read it. I was enjoying those books, but then it's like, okay, I don't want the paper book. I mean, for, you know, all numerous reasons. I don't want it cluttering up my life. But when I was a big paper advocate, but the moment I went to ebooks, I realized, you know what, I've got countless bookshelves and boxes of books everywhere, cluttering up my life, taking up so much space on my home, and I really need that space, and it's like wasteful, it's bad for the environment, fuck this, I don't want any ebooks, I'm going all the way, aside from some old books that are worth a lot just because of how valuable they are, like over 100 years ago, first editions and that sort of shit. And like, so, yeah, I went all the way. So telling you that, yeah, I can get the hardcover for cheaper than the ebook or book, like that didn't fly with me, and it's pushed me away. And so, yeah, this big battle between the big publishers and Amazon fought out. Amazon tried to, you know, held its guns until finally they gave in. The big publishers won. They were allowed to charge as much as they wanted and keep the same pricing scheme. They got to keep 70% of revenue regardless of how much they price their books. They won. Indie authors, incidentally, are still stuck by Amazon's rules. We can't charge more without losing money. We can't charge less without losing most of our revenue. But like the big publishers won. But the result of that, and here comes the good news for indie publishers, is that the big five fucked themselves royally. Their sales have plummeted as a result of them jacking up prices. Not only their sales plummeted, but their overall revenue has gone down. So even though the fact that they're selling their books for more, it hasn't equaled out the amount of lost sales they've gotten. And the best news, of course, is that those customers are driving away with their high prices are actually all going to independent authors. And that's
because they're readers. They're going to read something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why would you, if you could read, you know, I mean, there are box sets out there with like 10, 20 books for $1. So why would you go buy one book for $20 when you can get 20 books for $1? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
You've got to be very committed to that particular author.
Yeah.
To do that.
And I mean, whether it's for right or for wrong, like I understand that there's an argument against bundles like that and it devalues people's work and stuff like that. But usually it's done with a strategy and to try to get new readers and whatever. It's not about
new people.
Yeah, it's not about that bundle. It's about hopefully getting a new reader who will read the rest of your books.
Yeah. Someone tries out this bundle and all the 20 books or so in it they bought for $1. They find you and they love how you write. And they go check you out and they buy more of your stuff. I mean, that's how we get so many of our readers. We're giving out books for free or putting them in the bundles.
We gave a lot of books away for free.
We gave, was it over, I guess at this point I must be about 60,000 books for free this year. I don't think you really need to check to get the exact number, honey. That's fine. So let's just say.
Over 60,000 books, we'll say.
Yeah. So it's over 60,000 books already this year we've given away for free. And you know what? Awesome. We want people to read our books and to find out if they like it. Come check out our stuff. You know, come by it, help us out. If you can afford it, awesome. If not, hold up. We give out free stuff all the time if you want.
Yeah.
If you want to write reviews, contact us.
Yeah, I mean, we always give away free books for reviewers. All you have to do is leave a review. It could be a sentence. It could be, you know, a couple paragraphs.
It could be a fucking novel-length review like some people do.
Yeah, so basically all you have to do is read the book and then write a review on Amazon and you get the book for free. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the work for, what's it called?
I don't know. I don't think it really matters. So.
Okay, it probably doesn't matter.
Now, holding up the whole podcast with minute details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yep. So, anyways, that's more great news. Like, you know, the big publishers want to charge ridiculous prices for their books. Awesome. Go right ahead. Apparently, it's just going to be readers are going to be smart enough to know that there are amazing authors that write very creative and cool shit that they can get for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
And we're one of them. Please
Yay!
agree with me. Please agree with me.
Hopefully. Let's cross our fingers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the topics that we talked about at the Sci-Fi convention, I guess it's a good segue there, is basically...
How was that a segue?
Shut up! It was great segue. Jesus.
Okay.
Is, you know, basically writing what you love and what is personal to you and what is inspiring and what makes you really feel passionate and energetic about a project.
But with an eye towards making that realistic, making it sell.
Yeah. And that is probably our biggest struggle.
I think most people's biggest struggle. Unless you're one of those lucky people who happens to have very conventional taste. You just like the stuff that is super popular. You love 50 Shades of Grey and you want to write billionaire stories. Because if you're that person, you are poised to make a lot of money right now.
Yeah, and it's like if you understand why people like that, which is what, you know, Josh and I always struggle with. I guess we have very unconventional tastes. I know I have very masculine taste when it comes to like romance and seduction. I don't care much for head games. I don't care much for, you know, pushing each other away for no reason, and I don't really care much for foreplay.
She really don't.
I don't. Like, I enjoy things.
Just shove it in, Josh.
Just shove it in. I enjoy things that are just kind of gritty and real, and that's not usually very popular. Like, one of the most...
That was a really terrible impersonation. I'm sorry.
It really was, but I was just moving on because I don't want to hold up the podcast with my minutia again.
Again, yeah. That's what you're saying.
As I was saying. So, yeah, it's really hard for me to get into the rom-com type of story where it's like, you know, guy meets girl and guy and girl like each other, but their emotional baggage is holding things up and pushing them apart, even though they're clearly great for each other, but they have all these misconceptions about one another that they don't want to talk about. Like, that just drives me crazy, and I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing. We're going to talk about this at the Love and Sex show, about how, you know, using erotica and romance as a guide for a successful, relationship, and that how
it's horrible.
It terrible because
horrible.
It is a tip for writers about how you want to create conflict in your story, and conflict can drive, you know, the plot and keep things interesting and going. One tip was suggested to us by other very successful writers was to just have characters not communicate with each other.
Withhold information.
Withhold information and not talk to each other.
I mean, you can see this outside of romance as well. It was a big plot motivator in Harry Potter. You know, the fact that Harry wouldn't confide in Dumbledore or Hermione or Ron, it really pushed my limits of, like, suspension of disbelief because they were so close and they had all shown them to be completely supportive and wanting to help Harry. But, you know, he couldn't tell them because if he told them, that would resolve the plot too quickly. And it's the same in romance where, you know, you can't tell each other, oh, I can't be with you because I heard that you were in love with somebody else or something like that. Like,
and once you know this, like, just pay attention to how often this trick is used in stories in TV, in movies, novels, short stories,
it's
everywhere.
just do not tell people. Plot is, essentially escalated towards the climax.
Yeah. So, so much, conflict between characters is driven by them not communicating, and that, for a relationship, of course, should make an excellent point. Communication is key, being open and honest and talking to each other and working through problems. You don't want to be these tedious, cliche, romances where all your issues are just because you won't fucking talk to each other honestly.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to talk face to face even necessarily if you have problems with communication like that. You can text them or send them an email or compose a letter or a poem or whatever. Just as long as things are getting communicated, it doesn't matter how. You can attach a letter to your cat and have your cat run after your partner and deliver it or something. It doesn't really matter.
It might take insulting, not talking to them face to face, but just to be honest, again, communication. Tell them you have issues.
I don't deal well with conflict, and I know this isn't a conflict, it's just emotions, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. We all grew up in a digital age, pretty much, most of our readers and stuff. I grew up on the internet. I'm 30 years old, so I know there's some people, a bit older than me who maybe didn't, but I'm sure you guys can all see how communication has changed over the last 10, 15 years. And so a lot of people haven't been socialized to really understand this give and take in regards to very serious conversations. Having them face to face, it adds another level of scariness when you're not separated from the screen. Whether it's a cell phone or whether it's the internet or whether it's whatever. Yeah, most people are meeting online now and on dating sites and whatever. So that's how people learn to communicate in the first bit of their relationship.
Yeah, our relationship, which incidentally began 14 years ago today.
Oh.
Yeah, it began online.
Oh my god, we're doing a podcast on our anniversary.
Wow. We're kind of losers. Wow, there you go. Oh, yes, the truth bomb just hit. We're podcasting on our 14th anniversary. At least we got wine. I think that's kind of an anniversary.
It's perfect. Yeah. So, yes.
But yeah, we began 14 years ago online. And you know what? I was a big nerd.
He was. He's saying it past tense.
Oh, shut up. I was on the math league team. I'm no longer on any math league team.
He wants to join the Social Justice League, though.
What? Oh, give me... Jesus. Anyways, moving along, I was a big nerd, and I wasn't great at communicating. I was also kind of a tough guy. That doesn't really make sense with the nerd thing, I guess, when you think about it. But, yeah, growing up as I did, you had to be a bit of a prick and tough guy if you didn't want people to fuck with you. So I wasn't great at communicating, but I met the love of my life online, where I was able to be honest and open with her in a medium that took the whole face-to-face aspect out of it. The thing I love doing, so many people lie online, but for me, what I loved about the internet was that I could be honest.
Me too.
For once, without fear of all the repercussions of telling the world who you truly are.
My Facebook page, for my pen name, is by far more honest than my real name Facebook by leagues.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I've always been like that. I've always been very honest online. I've being somewhat of a kinkster and kind of an outcast and kind of a goth, punk,
punks.
It was a tremendous sense of camaraderie when I felt alienated and alone at school. So, I never felt the need to hide who I was online because I found who I was online. That was just me.
Yeah, same for me.
So we spent a lot of the early portion of our relationship, even after we moved in together, communicating online.
Yeah. And I think for us, writing was a big, that's why writing was so important to us. Because writing was a way for us to communicate non-verbally.
And explore our sexuality and stuff when
oh, hell yeah.
that was, it was scary to talk about and to confess face to face. I mean, I know a lot of people have problems with that, telling people what they like, especially when you're young and you don't really know what you like. You just know that something isn't working for you. It's kind of hard because the other person might be young and not really know what they're doing either, and you don't want to hurt them or hurt their feelings or make them feel like they're not doing a good job. But at the same time, you're still trying to explore what you like and what feels good for you, and it gets complicated. Yeah. There's a lot of emotions that go with that.
I was extremely sexually repressed, and for me, writing and talking, online to my future wife was, a great way for me to explore that aspect of myself, which I really just didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of off topic from writing what you love versus writing what you're marketing, but I guess that's nature of conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a lot harder when you're trying to take those things that you love and you're passionate about and you feel very strongly for and trying to make it more marketable. And basically what it is you're taking your very personal, very individual fantasies and trying to open them up to a broader spectrum of people.
Right.
And that's hard. Because
you're what you want to write is likely so personal that it is so narrow that the idea of who you're going to sell that to basically might boil down to you.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people talk about you should have a very focused story. If you have a kink or a fetish, it should be focused. You shouldn't just ram in every kink that you've ever had.
Yeah, no, that was a big problem for us in the beginning.
And, I think our biggest problem, our actual legit biggest problem, is Josh and I got together 14 years ago. I was 16 at the time, or I had just turned 17, and he was 17, just going on 18. We moved in. I moved in 3 weeks after my 18th birthday, and we have been together ever since.
Yeah.
We have not slept a night apart since I moved here. Mm-hmm. So we have a really hard time writing the traditional romance novels because it so closely mirrors our own life, and we've been really lucky in that regards that, we've always kind of fantasized about the opposite things.
Things we never got to experience.
Yeah, like the grass is always greener thing, except we don't actually want the things that we write about. It's a way of exploring different alternatives that we could have had in our life,
Yeah.
And so we wrote a lot of very promiscuous characters. Not characters that were cheating necessarily, but just, people like they are today. They're dating, they're sleeping with a couple people maybe, or seeing a couple people at the same time, but they're not really serious about any of them. But then maybe one does get serious, and then it focuses on that. And that's kind of what we've written about a lot, is these characters who they have, emotional bonds or sexual bonds or whatever. They have a connection.
James Bonds.
They have a connection, but it's
Government
not...
bonds.
I'm sorry for him, people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just not necessarily monogamous or not monogamous at first. So one of the things that we've been trying to think about is in our fantasy romance novels having more of that monogamy and more of that commitment earlier in. And
yeah,
it's hard because we're thinking of the things that interest us, and then we're trying to put in this romance that starts quicker than what we're used to in most of our books.
Yeah, because we had such a... Like, our relationship was so slow with me. It's 14 years, and I feel like I'm still just... Even though we talk every day non-stop, just blah, 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 we never shut the fuck up to each other. We have conversations all fucking day, even though we work together full time now. And it's like, so our relationship has been so slow building, just constantly over the entire period of our whole time together. And, we're such a committed couple. So the idea of writing about that sort of relationship to us is like, Jesus, it'd be like the idea of writing about, like, fucking making yourself breakfast every goddamn day of your life. Like, it's just like, Jesus, I do that all the time. I want to write a story about that. Like, But, that's what sells.
And I mean, I understand why people like that, because, as I said, like, a lot of people are living the life that we want to write about, that more promiscuous, that more open and exploratory kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
But the thing is a lot of people are already living that. So they don't want to read about that because that's their everyday, that's their waking up and having breakfast story.
Yeah.
So it's not exciting for them because they're still waiting for, potential monogamy or potential commitment to be swept off their feet type thing.
Yeah, through writing, we've really learned that there are a lot of people who are like militantly obsessed with monogamy, and they really, really fucking do not like it if your characters are not absolutely absurdly monogamous.
I once read a complaint about a book that this couple was together and they broke up, and 6 years later the story picks up again and they've just like reunited, and he had slept with somebody in that 6-year period, and people were really upset about it, that he wasn't loyal to her while she was loyal to him when they weren't together.
6 years, for fuck's sakes. Yeah, we got one person who accused us of being horrible bigamists that were destroying the institution of marriage. Now, I'm going to confess here, this is going to really destroy my credit as a kinky person, as an erotic author. But over our 14 years, I have been strictly and completely faithful to my partner. I have never slept with anybody else.
He's not even just saying this.
I don't even really have an interest, in all seriousness. She has encouraged me to go out and like fuck someone else. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just sit at home and watch some fucking Daredevil or something.
Like, I'm serious. Like, I've encouraged him, and he set up like a dating profile, and he saw a couple, like one person, I think, and they never got past like hugging.
Yeah, I saw her for a while, and she literally told me that she wished that we could just kind of go further sexually, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, but how about we just play some more video games together? I was liking that part of our whole thing. Yeah, so it didn't really work out. So, I mean, but apparently I'm destroying, relationships around the world, according to one reviewer, so, you can thank me for that. If your relationship is falling apart, it's probably because of me.
Yeah.
I'm sucking up all the monogamy from the planet Earth, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's an interesting conundrum, trying to write what we love and try to write what other people love, trying not to make it so personal that other people can't relate. So that's been our little ongoing struggle since we brought this as a full-time thing for both of us.
Yeah, Bo, if you're someone out there who loves sluts, please comment.
Yes, if you love sluts, fucking share us with everybody you know, because we write the best sluts.
Man sluts.
Female sluts. Everybody sluts.
Sluts of every variety. We love the sluts.
Bisexual sluts all the time.
Totally.
Like, most of the sex scenes tend to be hetero, but most of the sluts tend to be bi.
Yeah. And that's great to me.
Yep.
I like that.
I believe in being open.
Yeah.
Another thing that we talked about at the Sci-Fi convention is that romance and a love story aren't the same. A romance novel is driven primarily by the romance between the main character and, you know, the love interest.
His hand.
A love story, meanwhile, is a story that is not driven by the relationship between two people. If you took out the romance between the two people, the story would be mostly intact.
Yeah, most stuff has a love story. I mean, Star Wars has a love story. I mean,
yeah, but you take it out and you still have Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, like, you take out the love story in most things and you still have, you know, it might not have the same emotion, it might not have the same emotional impact, but it still has at its heart the same story. Like, Harry Potter without the romance is still Harry Potter, but Twilight without the romance is nothing. Like, that's less than nothing.
Yeah. So there you go.
Where's your notes?
We had my notes.
We had other things to talk about, but I guess we finished them already. So that's fabulous.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't everything we had planned for the expo. It was just part of it. But, you know, I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we were also going to talk about basically ethics in writing romance and erotica.
That's kind of a big topic.
Yeah.
I don't know if that might be something for another podcast.
Maybe. Okay. Well, maybe if you're interested in hearing that, leave us a comment. And maybe next week or next time we do a podcast, we'll talk about that.
But mostly comment about sluts.
Thinking maybe we might try to do more frequent but shorter podcasts.
That'd be cool.
So,
because I enjoy doing the podcasts, though when we do them like once a month, or even once, yeah, it's like...
You get out of the groove.
Yeah.
But it's like tomorrow I'll be like, yeah, you know what, we should do another podcast. Yeah. But like in a month I'll be like, oh god, we gotta do another podcast? Crap, I gotta get everything ready, I gotta get back in that headset, and it's just kind of hard.
Yeah, it's a drag, man. Fuck that shit.
So, well, maybe we'll wrap it up there then. It's a bit shorter than usual.
Yeah, well, not much.
Yeah.
Alright, so now you've got to hear a bit about our woes. And there were many woes. We were driven out of our home by a murderous crack dealer. Forced to write erotica for money.
Oh, God.
Erotica we did not have a full passion for. Only a partial passion.
And you got to learn a lot about our business. So leave a comment. Let us know what you want to hear about. If you want to hear more about the writing and the technical side, or if you want to hear more about our creative process or whatever, we take requests. More books? Yeah.
Right now, I am starting up a story about Vikings 1,000 years ago. Some mysticism is going to be in all there, so it's going to be fantasy but historical.
And maybe next time we could do a little reading from it or something.
Maybe.
Sneak peek.
First, I'm going to have to actually write something other than raw notes for it, though.
Yeah, your raw notes are not very creative.
They're creative, but just don't make for good reading.
Okay, touche.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to hear me do a reading of one of our books, or if you have something in mind, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to sign out for now.
If you want her to do a reading of a sex scene, yeah, on the podcast, sexy. I'll make her do it in a sexy voice.
My sexy voice?
I'll make her do it in an actual sexy voice.
I was copying Elaine Bennis's sexy voice.
Yeah.
Licking like a